St. John himself, who helped orphans, who helped the needy, and after he reposed, the work continued by many who were affected by St. John's gracious assistance, and further were other generations who followed and helped in those same path. So at this time, I'd like to greet Dimitri Shakalov. Please give him a nice, warm welcome.
Morning, everybody. So Tis and Day just took half my talk away. No, just kidding. So to uphold St. John's legacy, to care for those with lack of means and provide assistance to orphans, destitute children, and indigent elderly. That's our mission statement for the St. John Benevolent Fund. The St. John Fund was started back in '51 when St. John came to San Francisco from China, bringing with him the orphans from St. Tikhon's and starting a new St. Tikhon's orphanage in San Francisco. And many of those orphans then grew up to help out orphans themselves and to help out people that needed help. And 3 of them actually are still around on the board, sort of emeritus, and they do help. It is interesting to talk to them as elderly people, but it's the fun that we help people that need help, and it's really hard to reach the people that reach out to us to say who gets funding and who doesn't get funding. We hear from people all around the world, and not only orphans, but we hear from just people down and out, and people hard on their luck, and asking to help them, and unfortunately we have to vet them, because we do get people that just are asking for money. So it's a interesting experience, year-round experience. You never know when someone's down on their luck, someone gets in an accident, something happens to them. And so we help out as much as we can. Traditionally, the way we would raise the money, the fund would have traditional balls and an annual luncheon. And these balls and luncheons require lots of work, lots of prep time. Months go into the prep of a ball and luncheon, getting people to help, volunteers to help. The luncheons themselves, getting people to cook beforehand, getting people to help serve and things like that. It always comes together, usually, by the grace of Velikion, but it's a lot of work. Then during COVID, it was sort of a blessing. Last minute, we couldn't have the luncheon, so we decided to have a Zoom meeting, a worldwide Zoom meeting, and the Zoom meeting was a great success. We had people, we put out the word, people signed up from around the world, and we had donations just coming in. It was one of our biggest years ever, the first year that we had a Zoom meeting. And it was fun, it was easy. There was, we had a couple guest speakers, so the guest speakers sort of had to do the preliminary work. We just had to focus on getting the meeting through. Although back then it was one of those crazy times where we did have people trying to hack into the meetings. We had to keep that off the air type of thing. But it's turned out to be very successful. We've had a few Zoom meetings now, and we want to get back to having an annual luncheon just because. But then we start thinking about the work, and it's like So I want to go through a couple. Here's Velikion with some of the orphans that he did bring over, and I want to show you a couple examples of people that we do help. So there's Sister Olga, who used to live in San Francisco and moved back to Ukraine. She started adopting orphans that were just had physical disabilities. And it was just sort of insane, if you think about it, what she started doing. She bought a house somehow, started getting a little bit of funding from the government, and just kept picking up people because people heard about her and started would bring people to her, kids to her. So she reached out to us, and we helped her. We helped her buy a home. She started also then picking up disabled adults that were just left on the curb by relatives and stuff. So they came to live with her, and she's flourished, and she's taught the people that live there to help each other. And so it's a very nice situation. She takes care of the homeless all the time, and we fund her pretty much yearly, a couple times a year. One of the things we did do, so she had this kid Vovik, who cerebral palsy, who was stuck just sitting there, and so she reached out. She goes, it'd be nice if you can get a wheelchair, but if he needs a specialized wheelchair. So we raised funds for that. We had a special fund drive for that, and now Vovik, as you can see the smile on his face, he's happy. So it's fun to see. Next picture, we got him a van, also because they were stuck at, so it was nice to have, they had a home, but to be able to make field trips and stuff. So we were able to raise funds to get them a van, and now they can go get around town a little bit and see things. And now I'll show you a quick video.
When Mother Olga lived in San Francisco, she was deeply influenced by the legacy of St. John of Shanghai and San Francisco. In 2010, she returned to her hometown in Ukraine and started a shelter, which is a home and refuge for severely disabled orphans and abandoned elderly. The first children she welcomed were two disabled boys, Vovichka on the left and Misha, who's on the right. What began with these two small orphans grew to 9. And Mother Olga hasn't just taken these children in, she's adopted them. There are 5 girls and 4 boys, all mentally and or physically disabled with special needs. The shelter is one of the main beneficiaries of the St. John Memorial Fund. And because of your generosity, the shelter now has a new vehicle to replace the 40-year-old Moscovich. This used Volvo SUV makes life so much easier. And as you see, it brings real joy. Also, many thanks to those who answered the call for power wheelchairs for Vovuchka and Masha, who both suffer from degenerative cerebral palsy. It was their dream to be a bit more independent, and they are beyond excited with their new chairs. Children at the shelter are loved and cared for. It's really a home Mother Olga has created. There are family meals, playtime, and education is provided. For those who can, go to local schools. The others are homeschooled. A small church has been established on site, and priests come to give services and communion. The shelter's community also includes the elderly, currently about 70, men and women, all who have been forgotten and or abandoned by their families. Mother Olga's goals are simple: feed and shelter the homeless, and treat those forgotten with compassion and love. People are found on the streets or released from the hospital and have nowhere else to go. Mother Olga opens her doors and her heart. The shelter is a loving community where the young and the old help care for one another. Very little help comes from the government. The shelter's needs include food, clothing, medicine. Diapers for both the children and seniors can add up to $100 per day. There are also the myriad medical expenses, maintenance of the old houses, funeral expenses, just to name a few. You are a big reason the shelter is still operating after more than a decade. And with your continued generosity, St. John's Shelter can operate for many more years to come.
So it's hard not to give to something like that. So as a fund, it's actually joyous to give to people that need it like this. So another example is the Bethany School in Bethany. So Bethany's located in the West Bank. It's about a 15-minute walk from Jerusalem, but because of the wall that's now been built, it takes over 45 minutes by car, going through a checkpoint, getting searched many times, and just getting questioned why you're going through the checkpoint. So it's been isolated in Bethany. The school itself is has a compound, a walled compound, and it's a girls' school. It's one of the better girls' schools in the area. Teaches both Christian and Muslim girls. Teaches them both in the Quran and in the law of God for the Christian girls, and they get along as one, and they're friends, and it's nice to see. So that the school itself, though, being in the West Bank, is tormented by the area that it's in, and it has daily occurrences with Hamas attacking it, not physically, but yelling at them, telling them to close and things like that, even though some of the people from Hamas send their girls to the school. And then they also have problems with the Israeli government because the West Bank is run by the Israeli government. So they have daily, or could be anytime, power outages. And the power there obviously supports the power of the electricity, but it also supports the water pumps. So they have storage tanks, but when the power goes out, the power can go out for a minute, it can go out for days. So they have to, start rationing the water when the power goes out, and then when the power does come back on, doesn't matter, like right now, if you're in the middle of a conference, all the girls are taught, stop everything, go get the buckets, get the tanks filled up, and so we can proceed ahead. And the school is run by Mother Maria, who, to say it, she's a badass. She puts up with Hamas, puts up with the Israeli government, puts up with everything around her, and doesn't take no for an answer. I mean, pretty cool person to know. We had an opportunity to help many other organizations also bought them a van so she can get around. But we make annual contributions from our fund to help them, just to get about in their daily lives. Our fund also lately, because of what's happening in the world, started contributing to different parts of Ukraine. Again, it's one of those things where we have to vet it because, all kinds of asks started coming in from Ukraine, and it's like, you start researching and it's like, not this person or not this organization, but so it's been something we've had to do. But anyway, that's a little bit about the fund. Now let's get more important things. A little bit about myself. So I grew up in an immigrant family. My dad was born in Russia, went through China, then the Philippines, came to America. Didn't speak a word of English, so he got to work in a gas station washing windshields. Then finally moved up and got his dream opening a delicatessen, which is one of the better parts of, where is he? One of the better restaurants on the peninsula. We won't get into any names. Ties Andre's father also had a restaurant close by. So my dad also became Starostet Sabor, worked on Prietskoy Soviet, and volunteered around the community.
He also sold cars.
He sold cars, yes. He was a car salesman for many years. Car sales for the month many times to support the 6 kids that he had. My mom was born in Japan and made her way, after her parents both passed away, to America. She sang in the Nicaragua church choir, and so she continued singing in the choir at our parish in San Francisco until almost right before her death. So when I was 2 years old, I came down with meningitis. At the time, very serious illness. I was put in the hospital. Doctors worked on me a couple days. I had very high temperature, and finally the doctor said, nothing we can do. Your parents need to pray. So my dad went to Vatican. It was at Tikhon Zadonsky at a meeting, and went to interrupt the meeting to talk to Vatican. And as soon as he walked into the room, Vatican said, I already prayed. So my dad went back to the hospital. By the time he got back to the hospital, I was normal, so to speak. Fever gone, no traces of meningitis till this day. And my mom would always remind me, because one of her girlfriends also had gotten meningitis, but she became deaf. And every time we'd see her, she'd be like, nothing happened to you, you're okay. So the count saved me. Next scene. Is on the left side is little Pavlik Lukyanov, who now is Velika Pyotr. So when I was 4 years old, Velika Pyotr brought me into the altar. And I don't remember much coming into the altar. Although what I do remember, as a 4-year-old, I had this very special superpower. Superpower that I can make my eyes go see everything blurry, and nobody else around me can see that I'm seeing things blurry, right? Cool superpower to have as a 4-year-old. So like right now, I'm looking at you with blurry eyes. You can't tell I have blurry eyes. You guys can do the same back to me. I couldn't tell. So lo and behold, during one of the services, I'm standing in the altar, using my superpower, standing looking around the altar, not knowing what's going on, and all of a sudden, Velikian comes up to me. Stop blurring your eyes. And I was like, ooh. How does this person know this? So it's my one experience with Velikian, or second experience, but one that I remember. Next, after that, I started serving with Velikian 20, many years. Started till his death, serving with him in the altar. Velikian 20 was sort of like a grandpa to me, to all of us. Very kind, very loving, very teaching, and outside of church, had a very, I'd say, good sense of humor. But in the altar, boy, you stick with the prayers. You didn't goof off at all. Taught me a lot, taught us all a lot about how to serve in the altar, how to pray, things like that. Interesting story. When we gave birth, my wife gave birth, not us, to our son Eli, who's back there somewhere. So back then, no cell phones, so gave birth, called parents, called the in-laws. Okay, everything's good. You need to relax right now. Take a little, the parents will come in whatever, half hour or something like that to see the baby. So, I don't know, I was gonna go out the room for some reason. I opened the door, and there's a long corridor. On the far end of the corridor, here's Velikian 20 coming at us. And I'm like, close the door. Nina, you won't believe he's here. Velikian 20, right? So, first visitor for Eli was Velikian 20. Blessed to have him come to the hospital. Sorry, I have a cold, so even though I'm getting emotional too, but just another picture I want the services to show you. Last week was Troitsa, so here's an old picture of the cathedral with the old iconostas. And just to show you also, so the person on the bottom left, let's see if I can get this laser, right there, is Sirosh Shumilov, who's now Predidyakin Shumilov in Newark, thank you. And then over here is Sasha Loganov, who is now Father Alexander in one of the Carolinas, I believe? Charlotte, Carolina. So that's just, what happens to altar boys. They grow up and become further their paces in the church. That's me on the bottom right. I'm still an altar boy. I'm the head altar boy, but still an altar boy. So I just want to show you how people do move up in the church services. I had the privilege of participating in the canonization of Velikian. It's very interesting to have all these pilgrims from around the world, all these clergy from around the world come, and I got to be front and center. I got to be part of the service, putting together the service, making sure everything happened correctly. It was one of the first times, I guess, for us. It was the first time for us. I don't know if in other altars. We actually mic'd ourselves up with Velika's blessing, and he was against it at first. And I go, Velika, there's going to be Talpan Noroda. We're not going to be able to walk around. So there were 6 of us with microphones, walkie-talkies, and it was easy to make the service go without having to move around and push and shove all the priests that just stand around and do nothing.
From the altar boy perspective.
From the altar boy perspective, yes. Which is the correct perspective, by the way.
Also the deacon's perspective.
We push the deacons around though. Also in later years, being able to participate in, I'm a subdeacon now, in watching other people grow in the church. That's little Mr. Pasha back there, becoming a reader, taking his first step in which hopefully will be many more steps in the church. So it's been a fun turn in being an altar boy in the church, helping out, seeing people move up the ladder around you. Also, a side part of me is getting involved in Scouts. So, shows this picture from the 70s when midi stichidi were in fashion. And serving here in camp with Vidika Antoni, and on the left, Misha Stefan, who became a subdeacon and then moved to Colorado after that. But Scouts was a big part of my life also, helping out the community, growing up the ranks, and taking part in helping youth, younger than me, obviously, the youth of America, and helping them grow in their lives. And it's nice to see scouting kids now who are adults, and it's like, you know, they might have dropped Scouts, but it's like, thank you, I remember doing this. You know, a friend of mine, he's a park ranger now in California, superintendent, and he thanks Scouts for it. So it's just another avenue of giving back to the community. And along with that, you get lifelong friends. In this picture here, I've got friends on the East Coast, West Coast. I've met him first back in '79, and we're still friends today. So it's a good way of seeing people around the community, helping out the community, and giving back to the community. I also got to be head poultry cutter here, serving dinner with one of my friends from Los Angeles and a friend from Jersey. So again, lifelong friendships, lifelong teachings, and having the kids below us wanting to do that next step that we're doing because it looks fun, supposedly. Another one of my great accomplishments was breaking a glass ceiling. I'm part of the sisterhood. Took many years to get into the sisterhood. Damn women. It was like, you're a man, you don't know what to do in the kitchen. And I'm like, wait a second, my mom taught me. My dad taught me. So I had to prove myself a couple times to make pirishki. Finally, I've been accepted. And I even, to the point where I'm allowed to bring farsh. And I'm allowed to, they come to me sometimes for advice. It's like, hey, this is happening, you know, what should we do? And along with that, I brought other men with me. So, we've broken the glass ceiling. Women, stand back. We're taking over. So, another aspect of helping out was helping other parishes. So in this picture, I'm helping the Santa Rosa Church, St. Peter and Paul, putting up a new iconostas. It was a fun project. It was a joyous project to do, helping the church get to the next step. And it was fun because there's people, I don't have another picture, but people from around the Bay Area, not just from the parish, helping out. I'm also on the parish council of my local church, trying to help out the parish in any way that I can. So what does it all mean to? What does it all amount to? It's different ways of giving back to the community, different ways of helping the community. You can all help. You know, there's different ways to help, as Machka talked about in her talk. Joining the choir, selling candles, giving back, you know, cleaning the church, all that kind of stuff. And another example, I was just together on the East Coast for a wedding, got together with some friends there, and so one night we were sitting around singing songs, and one of my friends is not singing. So I'm like, hey, why don't you sing? He goes, I can't sing, I'm tone deaf. That's why I'm starista. So there's always a job for you in the church, always something for you guys to do in the church. Help your church, help the community, and it's amazing how it's the friendships grow just by chance. You don't even notice that part, and then the youth below you really take to it. So it's really nice to do. I'm sorry, French word. Anyway, as the St. John's Fund, for examples, we could use people, webmaster duties, accounting help, help with fundraising ideas, and modern computer technology stuff. But aside from the St. John's Fund, I mean, any fund around you can use help. Any sisterhood, any part of your parish can use help. So please help your community. Please help and get others involved. Helping the community will help you. Join somewhere now. Thank you.